everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome back to the 1313 podcast. So nice of you to drop by. I'm Jacob.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Tommy.
Welcome back, all you Regs, and to all you Shinies. Welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast. Please, before we begin, make sure that you hit a like, you hit a subscribe, you leave a comment, and you follow us on all of our social media, that being Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. I'll link down below. Fellas, how's everybody's week going?
Very good.
Good.
I have off, so I'm happy to have off. I got done a lot of stuff today.
Tommy's back.
Nice.
I've been here the whole time.
Tommy had his hiatus last week. Cause
I just didn't talk the entire last episode.
Yeah, he was sitting right there.
He was here in spirit.
Mm-hmm. But Jackson, you're done with school now?
Finals is over. Thank God. I had to write a 4-page final for one of my exams because the teacher just gave us notebook paper and questions and said, yeah, you have 2 hours to do this. So that was amazing and fun. And
I was using ChatGPT.
He can neither confirm nor deny whether he used it or
That's
not.
factual. That's factual.
My life is boring. I haven't done anything but work and live life, other than the fact that Delilah rode in New York on Saturday.
I thought you went to Florida.
No.
Dude, are you serious?
Yeah, I thought he went to Florida.
No, she rode in New York for the kind of semifinals for our region, and her team won overall. They won every single race. So
Good
she's going to nationals. But she's worried because Texas is in her heat, and Texas has won nationals 4 years in a row. So
that's time to break the streak.
They're
Beat
Texas is 2K is apparently 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and Delilah's 2K for their team is 7:12 at its fastest. So I'm like, just be faster.
They just need to be faster.
Roll a little bit.
Or take a page out of Sebulba's book and sabotage
their boat.
Put their riggers on backwards. And
Put a motor on the
over.
Yeah.
Make it go zoom.
Our team did that to ourselves one time.
And I was in the boat. That was not fun.
We just felt bad for everyone else.
Yeah. We didn't want everybody to look real good, so we let them look better than they would have. Anyway, if you haven't already, viewer, you at home, if you haven't already, make sure that you consider joining our Patreon to help support the podcast every single month. And in our 1313 Gungan Boss tier, we do a giveaway at the beginning of every month, and we finally have in hand. We're going to be giving away the TVC Indoor Bunker. So if you want to get your hands on this, make sure that you support us on Patreon. For only $13.13 a month, getting a $50 set.
$60
set. That sounds like a screaming deal to me. So make sure you support us on Patreon. We love each and every one of you who do support us. And yeah.
Thanks for Captain Rex in it too.
Thanks for aborting us on Patreon.
I think you mean supporting.
That.
I think you mean supporting.
Anyways, we're in we're in the drought season, the dry lands of Star Wars content. There's a whole lot, especially because it was May the 4th and there was nothing really. And then there was a Star Wars Celebration where we got all of our nice new fun announcements. Yep. So until Ahsoka comes out,
you guys want to know something?
All right.
I'm that guy. I haven't watched Visions yet.
You didn't?
Listen, okay.
Your dad did. How did you not?
Okay.
Logan did. He's the working man now.
I made an attempt last night to watch it, and I was so tired that 7 minutes in, I was out, dude. I was gone.
Wow.
So I'm going to watch it. I have time tomorrow. I'm going to watch it tomorrow, and then I'll finally have watched Visions.
I'm like,
too.
Wow. It was really good.
Okay. To be fair, if it was like Ahsoka, then I would have watched it by now. That's the difference.
I get it. It's not a high priority.
Yeah, it's not screaming amazing. But no, we're in the drought. It's the dry season of content. We don't have any news to go over.
Nothing. Literally nothing.
Nope.
Other than if you're going to ICC Con, Freddie Prinze Jr. has dropped out. He's not going to be there anymore. He canceled.
He said he's going to have chicken pox that day.
Yeah. But apparently he's shooting something. So
in the middle of something.
Yeah. So here's hoping that it's Ahsoka. It's
a project. He's not actually shooting someone. He's doing
working on a project.
Yeah.
Which was a bit bumming for me because I signed up to get a signature from him. So in lieu of that, I did Ezra because Ezra's also one of my favorites on the show. Yeah. Kanan's just the GOAT.
I'll be meeting Ezra Sabine and Ian McDermott. So
I did not.
cool.
Dope.
So I'm excited. So just your weekly reminder to go to ICC in Tennessee, 26th through the 28th. Tickets are on sale now. Hotels are selling out fast. Come if
Don't
you want
we
to.
leave next Thursday?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we
but
do.
make sure you come
Crazy.
down to meet me and Jackson and Luke this monster and
Out of the
basement
Black
and,
Series Cantina,
and
Skywalker
Hybrid,
Hendrix.
and the Black Series on YouTube, on Instagram.
All
Not
of the
him.
goats.
Not me.
But
Everyone
not-
but me.
Everybody but Tom.
I am the Freddie Prinze Jr.
Anyway.
I might not even be at ErieCon. I might not even be there.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, dude. I'm if I don't like have one of those days off, and I'm working, and I'm not like doing like overtime working the convention, then I'm just not gonna be there.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'll probably be there.
Probably.
No, like, I looked at the date and I should be able to make it.
I can't run this by myself.
I know that.
That'd be a pain. My back hurts. Anyway.
Good thing you have Hunter Schultz and Skywalker Hendrix and
Late
the
Tendy.
King of Ohio.
Mm-hmm. I'll probably just force Connor at gunpoint. I'll be like, I need some help.
Step in host.
He's our intern.
Intern Connor. Hi Connor, if you're watching this.
Fun fact: someone texted me about Connor the other day. They said they saw him at school. It was actually his Lego Star Wars Outpost. Saw him at school wearing a 1313 shirt and was like, "Why do you have that on?" And Connor was like, "Oh, I'm a fan of 1313. I know the guys." He was like, "How do you know them?" He was like, "Connor said I'm on the show."
Yeah.
So
he literally
thanks
is.
a lot, Hunter. You don't watch the show. Thanks
Yeah.
for doxing yourself on that. And you won't even know that I said this because you don't watch the show.
Loser.
Damn.
Anyway. Star Wars The Clone Wars is something that you may have heard of.
What? Star Wars The Clone Wars? I like Star Wars The Clone
It's not like we only ever talk about it.
It's not like we make clone troopers kind of like the aura of this channel.
This is not going to be Umbara. Part of it will be, but we're not going to sit here and gawk about the things that are shallow about the Clone Wars. We're going to talk about our take that the Clone Wars ushered in an entire new generation of Star Wars fans, and I will argue probably the most dedicated Star Wars fans since the original trilogy.
Yes. Dedicated and now annoying, I will say.
Dedicated and in some ways annoying, but I would say that's more prequel fans than Clone Wars fans.
It goes hand in hand a bit. But
No,
yeah,
I'd
I mean,
say
I get what
Clone
you're
Wars
saying.
is so much of a part of the prequels.
It is, because I feel like almost all the prequel crowd is in the Clone Wars crowd, too.
And they're
That's
all...
weird because I think differently. Because if you think about it, you have like Justin and Nate from Out of the Basement. They were old enough to see the prequel trilogy in theaters.
Yeah.
We were just under that threshold. We were just
True.
a little bit too young to have seen all three of the prequels in theaters. But then the Clone Wars came out.
But I did see the Clone Wars movie in theaters.
I did see.
That was the
The
first
greatest
Star Wars
movie of all time.
The first Star Wars I saw in theaters.
My first Star War.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost
so
forgotten about, too.
there's so much to talk about when it comes to the Clone Wars, and I kind of wanted to have a conversation about all the different things that have made the Clone Wars so unique and so special to the franchise, and how I think it's honestly in so many ways it has changed how the franchise, how the lore works. You know, I would argue more so than any other Star Wars project. I think Ahsoka might come in and take that crown, but
That's what happens when you have 7 seasons of something.
Exactly.
yeah. So actually, I'm doing a rewatch right now of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. My girlfriend is going through it for the first time. So we've been watching. We are about to watch the Second Battle of Geonosis arc.
Okay.
We only started a few weeks ago. We've been trucking through.
What do you mean you and I are still going through... Y'all have started...
She's still watching.
Y'all started Clone Wars a year ago.
It's a casual watch.
Y'all started it a
She's
year...
literally almost done with season 5, bro.
ago.
South Park's not a casual watch, though.
I was trying to work on that
intellectual
PC.
watch for the whole
And then
brain.
I was editing Jackson's engagement photos. He goes, I want to turn on South Park. I was like, I can't believe this. They're gonna turn on South Park, and the only reason why one of the episodes was funny was because it was spoofing Pet Cemetery. And I was like, haha, it's a funny thing. And Jackson is wearing a shirt for Ice Nine Kills Funeral Derangements, and the guy said, "Dead is better," and Jackson's like, "Oh, like from the song," and I couldn't believe the profound stupidity that gargled out of his throat hole.
If Jacob ever goes to hell, his eternal damnation will be South Park on
No,
repeat.
it won't be South Park on repeat. It'll be watching Jackson and Maya watch South Park, and like the most mediocre joke flies by, and Jackson goes, and then I'll start clawing my eyes out. And I'll be like, "No, we're gonna stop." That's what purgatory is. That's what purgatory is. The Catholics are right. I should have paid.
All right.
No, no Christian subscription.
I don't want to subscribe to Christianity Plus, where I might get touched.
Christianity Plus. Anyways, so let's talk Clone Wars, guys. So
Sure.
I'm gonna repeat. I think that the Clone Wars is unique in that it has brought in the most dedicated generation of Star Wars fans since the original trilogy. And because if you look at a lot of people that like the prequels, really they just like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
A lot of Clone Wars fans, actually I don't think I've ever met someone who's a fan of the Clone Wars. Like if someone's going to watch it for the first time, they never say, "Oh, well, you can skip all this, this, and this." They say, "Yeah, but watch all of it, but just make sure you can get through the first couple seasons."
The only thing I skip, season 1 Goldie arc. That is I refuse to watch Goldie because I cannot stand Goldie. That has to be like, I'm like for watching the entire Clone Wars and making it through the stuff, even the Trace and Rafa stuff that I really do not like at all, and I think is unbearable sometimes, but Goldie takes the cake for being most unbearable and a waste of my time. That I will not watch it.
Why do you hate that arc so much?
Why?
I can't stand the droid. I can't get past like how annoying the arc is of like somebody sabotaging us, and then the droid is like the entire time.
Because it's a kids show.
I get that it's a kids show. It's just not for
Well,
me.
at that point, it was a kids show.
At that point, it was more for kids. But
Jackson
still.
talking about how Star Wars is for kids and how you should get over it if it's childish. A gold astromech.
I will say, having rewatched the first couple seasons, it almost feels exactly like watching The Bad Batch. Like, there have been so many episodes of the early seasons of the Clone Wars where, like, we finished watching that story arc, and I'm like, that had nothing to do with anything. Yep. It was just Jar Jar Binks. Just being Jar Jar Binks.
Jedi.
Just being...
That is one of the best arcs in the Clone Wars. But continue.
You think Bombad Jedi is one of the best arcs?
Absolutely. And I'm not being sarcastic.
That's one thing I will say is watching the Star Wars with someone who's never seen it before is fun because like
oh yeah,
you get to live vicariously through it. Like that was me when I was a kid learning all this for the first time.
Jen despises the Jar Jar episodes. The second she sees them on screen, because to be fair, we're watching it in chronological order instead of release order. So like. There are so many Jar Jar episodes in the first couple seasons. I didn't realize, like, I don't think I remembered how many Jar Jar centric episodes there were in there. Like, probably, I would say close to half of the episodes in season 1 have Jar Jar in some way, shape, or form. And season 2 as well. He's in several of the season 2 episodes. Yeah. That's why they die. That's why he dies down a little bit in season 3.
Bombad Jedi.
He is.
Bombad Jedi.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's in there a lot.
That's the thing. It's I know all the important stuff about Clone Wars and all that stuff, but the fact is that there's so much of it and it all goes by so fast. I remember almost nothing from it. I remember like my favorite parts. I remember like the most important arcs. Everything in between, I just don't remember until like I'm watching it again. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. But it's like I watched it again, like 2-3 years ago now. I watched it all the way through because I watched it with Delilah. So it's like I'm trying to get through it again, but I got cut off by school. So I'll probably pick it back up, especially now that I'm done with Jedi Survivor. Oh, but Tears of the Kingdom.
Fair.
Never mind.
I'm even on that just because I think last year I did a Rebels and then a Clone Wars rewatch, but there's so much that happens because there's so many episodes within a season that you forget, like, I guess, like, minor details here and there, but you still remember the big, like, arcs in the stories, like, from those shows.
And there's so there's so many episodes like The Bad Batch that are so inconsequential.
Yep.
And you watch them,
They
and
just
like,
happen.
I could totally see those Clone Wars episodes getting a ton of flack if they came out today. I could
Oh,
absolutely see it.
Perfect example, the one where it's the Wolfpack Battalion with C-3PO and R2-D2, and then they go on that mystical adventure. Like,
The Great Jesus is dead!
not the Great Jesus, that's a different one.
No, it's the same one.
No, they fall underground. In
Oh,
a
no,
mine.
you're right.
Yeah, and then there's like all this like mystical stuff, and the entire time
Same arc though, right?
It's the same arc.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, but then Sarn Boost is like, these droids. Yeah, like just like you said though, if that came out right now and that was like the latest Star Wars episode that was out for the week, it would get trashed on.
Absolutely, it would get trashed on. Yeah,
Because everybody's so picky with everything.
or like any Jar Jar episode
Mm-hmm.
would get absolutely trashed. And again, I'm not, when I say that it's inconsequential, I've been enjoying every second that I've been watching. And again, a lot of it comes from my nostalgia for the show. But I just love the Clone Wars, and it's my favorite thing. You know,
I was literally sitting here. It's another one of those bits that's a piece of Star Wars that it's like I know what happens. I don't remember the Citadel arc at all. I don't remember Echo dying. I have no recollection. Even the last time I watched it, it must have like gone. I must have like fell asleep during it because I don't remember it happening at all. I just know that it happened.
no, and watching it as an adult, it's so much different than when I watched it as a kid, because I used to get so upset when a clone trooper would die.
Tommy would cry every
Still get
time.
And I think it's
What?
because I had the action figures and I would play and make up my own stories
Okay.
with the characters. So when a nameless clone trooper would die, I would get upset. Echo dies and they just move on and they never mention it again after that. In the Citadel arc, he blows up, Fives yells, "Echo!" and then they just leave. And then there's right before the episode ends, there's a shot where Fives turns around and looks back towards the battlefield when they're like walking away through the trenches, and then it fades, and then that's it. That's the episode. It's over after that, and they never ever mention it until season 7.
Yeah, Echo's never mentioned again. That is a good point.
Yeah, it's, as an adult watching it, you don't realize like how things just kind of drop off, and then out of nowhere, like the Zillo Beast is another one.
Yup.
We just watched the Zillo Beast arc. That was one of the last ones we watched this past weekend, and that one, like, Jen was like, "That was really good. Like, I really liked that one." And I just keep my mouth shut, but I wanted so badly to be like, "Yeah," and then they waited 10 years to pick up that storyline again.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah, Mine will do the same thing. Like something will pop up in the Clone Wars. Like she's actually she just finished the Saw Gerrera arc, and she was like, "Why did we have to see Saw Gerrera and Onderon? That was like super annoying." And I was like, "He's more important for the story. You gotta hold on with him." But
Yeah,
she
he's-
hates him. But
he's
now
a
I also
giant
hate Saw
a-hole.
Gerrera.
Yeah, Saw Gerrera is the reason why Tech is dead.
He is.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, just like you're like so many minute, just like small details that. But I also like how many small details there are, they get picked up eventually. Like the Zillo Beast getting picked up 10 years later in the Bad Batch, or the like Echo coming back in some way, shape, or form. I feel like that's what makes the Clone Wars story like so good. Is instead of introducing like a billion new characters and a billion new ideas, anytime something is supposed to happen, they're like, "Oh, do you remember this event that happened then? This then caused this that you're about to watch."
And I feel like that's something that modern Star Wars is kind of missing a lot of the times, is if you think back to the prequels, the originals obviously, and even in the Clone Wars too, every background character had a name in a bar scene, and they would have a little page in the visual dictionary that came alongside with it. And even if they had one line or no lines, they had a name and they had a character bio and all that stuff. It was important back then as a fan to pay attention to the stuff in the background and the little details. I feel like we've lost a lot of that, especially with the live action stuff. Like my example I always bring up is Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. It's just all humans, and none of them have names. They're just like denizens of Tatooine that just exist. And to me, that's and they're background characters. Again, it's inconsequential. It means nothing to me. But I think that if you compare that to what has come before it, I think that's something that is unique to the older stuff, is that all those characters had names. All those characters had some sort of ambiguity to them, whereas like now it's just nameless, faceless denizens that just roam up and down the background.
True. No, I mean, I certainly agree with that. I feel like now the Clone Wars, in my opinion, made those callbacks more obvious, whereas sometimes if they happen in something like The Mandalorian, it's more subtle, because they're not trying to be like, remember this? You know what I mean?
Well, then again, Mando has the flashbacks or the recap in the beginning that
they
literally spells it out for you.
That is
what's
a really
gonna
good
happen.
I
point.
started skipping the recaps.
Me too.
Because they give away too much.
They do.
Well,
If a character's going to come back in an episode, they're going to show up in the recap.
Yep.
It is a bit annoying that that's the only show that does that too, because Bad Batch doesn't do that.
Nope.
And then
It's because Mando is way more casual.
yep,
It's
I
like-
100% agree with
It's
that.
because
too.
people just watch it and they're like, okay, yeah, that happened last episode. But then, at least in season 2, it was what happened last episode. Season 3, it was what happened last episode and what happened last season. That's gonna make this episode make sense. Let me jog your memory. So it was that was a little bit annoying.
I feel like in the Clone Wars, though, did you both have arcs that you, like, despised? So, I mean, I touched on Goldie as, like, the one that, as a kid, watching it, it was fine. But, like, I feel like for some reason, for me, Goldie is just seared into my memory because I really did not like Goldie as a kid, because I was like, no, guys, they're betraying you. Like, Goldie's not your friend at all. And be like, oh, like, if only you could see. Like, that was the
Jackson
issue. And
yelling
then
at the screen, thinking the characters can hear him.
Jacob, shut up.
I'm pretty sure you did that. Like today.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. It was for an effect because you and Maya were both there when we were watching.
No, I think he was serious. But no, I can't really recall like an arc that it's like I despise. The only one that's coming to mind that I was like, let's truck through this is the Blue Shadow Virus episode, or like that
I
little
love
mini
Blue
arc.
Shadow Virus.
I like it. I don't understand why. The only thing that came to my mind was what's something you dislike, because I don't dislike it.
The Blue Shadow Virus was eradicated. You mean murder? I love that. I love Dr. Nubo Vindi. But again, it's I don't know. Something about the Clone Wars is just so unique in that I don't have a storyline that I hate.
Okay.
There's some that I don't care about, like the one you mentioned with 3PO and R2. I don't really care about that one. Same with like the Trace and Rafa storyline. I don't care about that.
George
but
Lucas's favorite arc is the droids in the desert.
That's annoying until you get to Gregor.
And again, it's stuff like that that I'm like, I don't mind it, and you know, whatever. But then again, I'm
Fair.
a shill, so whatever.
Yeah, we're just chill like that.
Remember when Event Sevenfold says more shills in their song? That's us.
No, not
Now-
really.
Some things that Star Wars: The Clone Wars did that I think make it so special and made it a show that has brought in the type of fans that it's brought in. Is the creation of new characters and the way that it was able to bring in legacy characters. And I think the thing about Clone Wars is that it's not limited in any way. You could walk in, you could finish a little storyline, and that's why I think it benefits from being an anthology series.
Yes.
And we haven't had anything like that in Star Wars since the Clone Wars. You could end one storyline with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, your main cast, and then you have an episode with Kit Fisto, and then you have an episode with this random Jedi, then you have a Hondo episode, and then you get back to the story with the main cast for a few more episodes and a couple arcs, and then you go back to a 3PO and R2 episode. And it's a bunch of stuff, like, anything could change at any moment, and it kept the show very interesting.
Very, very good, very
Fresh.
very, very, very new,
Do
very...
you think an anthology could
Anthology-
survive in our Star Wars culture today, though?
No.
No, not
I
really.
would say
Because
so.
everybody's so obsessed with the
story.
the main story. What happened to the main? I think, and everyone loves to throw the word filler around so much
Oh,
that I think it would just, people can't enjoy stuff like that anymore. Like, and yeah, like, let's be honest, like, a lot of stuff in the early seasons of the Clone Wars would be labeled as filler nowadays.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, well, that's what blah, blah, blah. Like, if it's not the Rylo, if it's not an arc with a bunch of shooting and blasters and clone troopers, then people will be like, it's a filler.
Yeah, people just don't have the attention span.
The Senate
at all.
episodes where like Padme has to give speeches to the Senate about like clone funding or other things as well. 100% those would be labeled filler.
Those are filler. Those are filler.
It's galactic world building, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Anthology will not survive in Star Wars nowadays.
Unfortunately.
Just because thanks to TikTok, nobody has the attention span of more than 5 minutes. If your movie runs over 2.5 hours, you're not allowed to watch it.
You hit the nail on the head with that one. Which, by the way, I need to see Guardians 3. I really need to see
You gotta see Guardians 3.
Really,
You have
really
to
good.
see John Wick. We literally just went and saw, I
Yeah.
saw John Wick again. Jackson saw it for the first time, even though it's been out for like a month and a half, 2 months.
I need to go
But-
see.
Finals is not an
I
excuse.
need to
It's been
watch-
way longer than that.
I need to watch No Way Home.
Yeah, you never watched
You
Spider-Man.
watch No Way Home. You need to watch. What else do you need to watch? You need to watch.
Any blockbuster that
Any
came out in the
movie.
last 2 years.
Yeah.
See,
Mario movie.
all right.
Scream.
But really what kind of made the Clone Wars for me too is that it's the format that we don't really see too much of anymore, although Star Wars is back on like a weekly... Me too, now, sweetie. Even though Star Wars is back on a weekly basis, it was like the show to watch with your family on a Friday night after a good week of school, and you were like, holy cow, my favorite show in the world is about to like come on, and it was like the anticipation of like what's next.
Well, and that was the first one to do it.
Yep.
If you think about it, that was the first Star Wars
thing
show
to
that
ever
came
do.
out
Yeah.
week to week. There was the Ewok show
I
from
was
the
gonna say
80s,
Ewoks.
but that didn't
Ewoks
have the marketing
blows.
behind it that the Clone Wars does. And I
I
think
did Ewoks have 3 waves of McDonald's Happy Meal toys?
They should have
I
made a
think
teak action figure. I'm upset about Hasbro for not doing that. However,
now let's say though, we probably have the best perspective when it comes to the Clone Wars because of our age. We are the people who this was our Star Wars. Again, we were a little too young to see all the prequels in theaters, even though we still grew up in the prequel era.
I'm watching all of them.
The Clone Wars was the thing that was new and was coming out. So that was our Star Wars, and that's really what I stayed with it all through up until season 5. I was with it, you know?
yeah, because what? Oh no, wait. If you were gonna go, Jacob.
Yeah, we stayed with it up until season 5,
That's what I
and
was
then
gonna say.
we watched it and we saw Ahsoka leave, and we were like, "What the heck?" And then they came out with Disney took over, and then
The
they
mouse took over.
yeah, and then they had
mouse.
like the lost episodes on Netflix, and this was like right when streaming services were just kind of like a new thing.
When Netflix was the only one.
Yeah, and we never had Netflix. I remember one time I found it on like some pirating website, and I was like, "Oh, we can watch all of it now, guys," because we didn't want to buy Netflix, and then it was
We
like,
also didn't. We got it on DVD.
yeah, we waited for it to come out
Did
on
we
DVD.
wait for? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say, how did we watch it? Because I know we have the DVD
Yeah,
downstairs.
because it came
but I
out on
don't
DVD,
remember.
and that's when we watched it.
Yeah, because then when Disney Plus came out, it was on it, and then I was looking at it. I was like, did we ever watch this? But then I was like, well, we did because I remember this.
It's-
I remember
which
having
was
a lot of
weird.
resentment
Oh,
towards the evil mouse
I
back
did.
then because as like a 13-year-old kid, it was like that was my thing that I did with my dad every Friday was we would watch the new episode of the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network, and then you heard that Clone Wars was getting canceled altogether. And then when Rebels came out, I tried to watch Rebels, and I feel like I was also just hitting that age though, where like I was aging out of that, and I kind of got into like Marvel and other things, Indiana Jones.
For us, it was we started getting into video games heavy, so like we were
Yeah,
into
yeah.
Destiny and stuff.
Destiny became our new Star Wars when the Clone Wars ended.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't think that it's comparable, especially as an adult, to say that Rebels wasn't as good as Clone Wars. I think that it was just a very different show in a very different time period,
Oh, 100%.
and we were starting to age out. Whereas kids who were our age when Clone Wars started, when Rebels started, would be ripe to get into that. You know, it was ushering in, again, a new generation of fans.
I remember we watched Rebels in its entirety on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Like right when we were starting to get back into everything, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "Man, I'm so mad that I didn't watch this when it was
Me too.
coming out."
Me too.
It's so
Yeah.
cool.
I watched Rebels on my phone in freshman year of college. I would stay up
Really?
till like 4 a.m. like every night binging Rebels episodes.
It's so good.
Because, yeah, I agree. Because when Clone Wars ended, like you said, I had the resentment for Netflix because I was like, this brand new thing that my parents won't get. Like, I can't, like, watch the Clone Wars anymore. Like, what's the point? And then when Rebels came out, and I was like, man, I don't want to watch Rebels. I want nothing to do with it. It looks a little doofy, but that Mandalorian chick looks hot. And then when we were coming later in life... Come on,
She's
Jacob.
so
laugh.
dreamy.
But later when we picked up Rebels, I was like, I can't believe I didn't watch this. But again, it's like you said, it was the resentment that it wasn't a Friday night anymore, and it wasn't the golden dude on Cartoon Network, like with the crown, like skating around saying like, up next is the Clone Wars. And you're like,
what would he say?
I'd have no idea.
Star Wars, the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network. That's
Yeah.
what he would say.
When the logo for Cartoon Network was the CN, but it was like this orangish yellow.
And it was in the
brown.
tube. And it would skate through the tube.
Mhm.
And then, like, I remember you'd see that little thing, and then there'd be an advertisement for the Blue Shadow Virus episodes, and the tunnels looked the same as the tunnels in the advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then and then while that was running, then they cut to commercials, and they'd show you the Star Wars Clone Wars tech decks now at McDonald's. And then there would be the I think one thing I miss the most about childhood is I miss toy commercials. When was the last time you saw a toy commercial?
Hey!
A man has fallen into the river in Lego City. Hey!
Cooler now though, because I remember watching toy commercials for something recently, but it was just like,
Was your consumerism class?
no.
Now,
No, Majak would never.
another point I want to make, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on, is
Okay.
I
I hate
feel like the unique thing about the Clone Wars, I would argue it was the last Star Wars project that really had an impact on the consumerism aspect. If you think about the merchandising and the types of things that came out for that show versus the Disney era Star Wars stuff, I feel like they went way harder in the paint with the Clone Wars than they do with the newer stuff.
I feel like they didn't care if products sat. They would just like, they would make everything like they'd make every character from every episode and every side character.
Yeah.
And they make all the vehicles, and it's the wave of figures like the Phase 1 Captain Rex kind of looking over his shoulder like that. That wave of figures went so incredibly hard.
Yeah.
It's like half of my fondness. I remember like rolling up to Toys R Us as a little kid and just having there be this giant aisle full of Star Wars.
Pegs and pegs and pegs.
And then when Rebels came out, it was just like the really cruddy, like
3-inch with
5-point articulation.
Yeah, like this. It was like,
and then that carried over into the rest of the figure. I remember my first sequel era figure. My dad got me right after The Force Awakens. It was a Christmas gift, and it was a 5-point articulation Kylo Ren. And I
do remember.
I remember being like, "Wow, it's a Kylo Ren figure." But I also remember being like, "Really? This is what they do now? They were so much cooler when I was a kid. Why did they go backwards?" I was like, you used to be able to articulate all the art because it was just 5-point. I was like, what happened?
I'll never forget my and I know we've talked about it on the show. My biggest memory was my dad took me, my cousin Liam, and my sister to go to the theater to see the Clone Wars movie.
Yep.
And I remember thinking that film was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And on top of that, I remember walking out of the theater and me and my cousin laughing and giggling about that part on Teth where the droid is like, Captain Rex tells the droids they're outnumbered and the droid starts counting them and then gets blown up. We thought that was the funniest thing ever. And I remember we were able to go from the theater, go right across the street to Target. And that day, right then and there, I got a Captain Rex action figure. And that was the coolest thing to me. And my sister got an Ahsoka Tano action figure with Rhoda the Huttlet in the backpack.
We have that one.
Yep. And then I think my cousin got either Anakin or Obi-Wan. But again, it was like, that's not a thing you can do anymore.
No, it's
unless
it's with Marvel. Unless it's Marvel, because with Marvel, they have like the main characters come out like a month and a half before the movie comes out, so it does follow that line. It's like, I feel like with Star Wars movies you can do that, but with the shows now they keep everything under such tight wraps and everything's so secret that Hasbro doesn't have time to make toys and in time for it to come out. which is really upsetting because then you lose hype on things, and then it's like we're getting Andor figures now, and I don't care about Andor figures now.
I just was at one of our Walmarts,
You know,
and they had an end cap with the Walmart exclusive Andor figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
did see that.
it's been I think I did reviews on these figures a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Wasn't the Andor from
Aldani
Aldani.
mission.
Aldani? Isn't that like brand new though?
The legs
Like
of
the
the figure
only-
are brand new.
Well, like the only like new Andor figure, like because I know they had like the one Jack and the officers from Target and whatnot.
They did him, and then it's it's the Imperial officer
Yeah.
from the flashback scene where Cassian's dad dies.
Yeah.
It's that officer.
Weird.
That's the other one they chose. Now, but I think we all agree then that was a big thing for that show was that the merchandise. You could, it was readily available, and again, my biggest thing, I mentioned it, was like, I cared so much about nameless clone troopers
Oh yeah.
because I had the toys. I remember I had Captain Rex, I had 2 of the plain grunts, I had 2 ARF troopers, I had like I had a bunch of the commanders like Commander Gree, Commander Stone, Commander Pons. I had the ATTE,
Yep.
you guys have up there, and I had a Cad Bane, some battle droids. I had an AAT, the droid tank,
Oh.
a Droidica super battle droid.
Rich boy over here.
Well, that was the only thing I got. Like, that was the only thing I would ever want was Star Wars stuff. And I remember, like, every day I would play scenarios where, oh, the clones are at their mobile base at the ATT, and Cad Bane, like, because in the show, Cad Bane had a droid fleet that he borrowed from the Trade Federation
Yep.
in, like, season 2. So, like, that was, like, 2009, 2010, and I remember, like, I would play out, like, oh, and Cad Bane is leading the droids, and Quinlan Voss is there, and he's gonna, you know, and it's, like, these obscure characters that I had, too.
I missed, like, I would give anything to go back in time to be that age again where we had all that merchandising coming out and we had those figures coming out and being able to play with toys, like how you did, like you played make believe
In the backyard or in your room.
because
or, you know?
I remember the last time I ever played like that, and I remember I was either in 5th grade or I was just going into middle school or something, and I asked Jackson, I was like, can we do this like one more time for old time's sake? And we did it for like 5 minutes. I had my Force Unleashed Jump Trooper, because that was my favorite figure growing up, and we were playing with the AT-AT that's sitting right there. And I remember after 5 minutes, Jackson just goes, "This isn't fun anymore," and they went and started playing video games. And I was like, I sat there just crushed. I was like, well, not because I was sad because Jackson didn't want to play with me. I was sad because he was right, because it was like the magic was gone.
Yeah, because
it was
why
like
I didn't want to do it either. Because I
Age
reached
out.
the age where I was playing with the toys and the imagination aspect wasn't there. Because like I remember having these giant epic battles with Jacob. We would have like our one main character and then all of our side characters, and you'd have to kill off all your side characters, but your main character could never die because at the end of the fight, either one of our main characters would like leave. And then they would meet again another time. And it was like these big battles that we would think about in our head. It was so epic. And then I started like picking up the figures to play with it, and I was like, this is boring. Like I want something like tangible and real. I need something more real. I was like, I need to be able to like see it or do something. And at the time when Destiny had came out, that was the itch I could scratch, was because it was something I could watch.
For me, it was Minecraft.
Yeah, I could be
Or
the
Gears of
thing
War.
that I was playing with.
For me, it molded into Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Because then it was like in extension to it, because Assassin's Creed isn't like a whole cooperative thing. It's one guy who goes out and half the time he's climbing shit. So that's what I turned into, is I would go outside and I would like climb a tree or something. And then that's what turned into that for me. And then it molded into Destiny.
Yeah, I feel like again, it's like we aged out
Yep.
of that type, and it's funny how we've all come back to it. It's like everyone has
Jackson,
that. They
we'll
have
play
that
with action
itch.
figures when we're done.
Not like that.
Well, now something that's nice that I started doing now, I can play with my action figures in a different way. Exactly how they made Book of Boba is with, you can use it for previs. So it's like when I wanted to, my short film that I posted here, the 1 minute film, that was I had to do a storyboard because I had to do a storyboard for my class, but I prevised it with action figures, and I did like little cuts, and I just kind of put it all together so I knew how I wanted to edit it when I got to the editing aspect of it. So it was like that was. Now I can take especially now I have a massive arsenal of characters to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I can do whatever I want.
Nice.
I want to get into stop motion because I can make films with any character I want now because I have pretty much all of them at my disposal.
Fair.
I feel like
It just takes a lot of patience if you want to do stop motion.
Well, I did some stop motion stuff way back in the day on
I know.
on my YouTube. You've seen
I've seen it.
You've seen the spork.
Yeah.
If you dig, I'm not gonna tell you where to find it, but if you dig, you'll find it. There's
Yeah.
a stop motion thing that Jackson and I did at a local nature center. They did like a workshop day for like, oh, if this is something that you want to do, here's like the tools to do it. Just come and do it. And it was like Lego stuff. And Jackson and I both like for an hour worked on like this 30-second project of like just utter stupidity.
But it was
So,
funny though.
Yeah, it was good. So
Yeah.
if you find it, you're entitled to watch it, but don't tell anybody else where you found it. Let it just be like a secret.
Yep.
I feel like that was another thing about the Clone Wars that I really liked was you had obviously the big one is Ahsoka. You have a new character or a character like Captain Rex.
Mm-hmm.
You have a new character that you can gravitate to, and in a lot of cases, people hated Ahsoka when she first came out. I feel like that's a commonly overlooked fact about that character is
But
that
it's
she was
because she's
not
so
well
adored
received.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because we've had discussions about this before, but they took a character that was mega annoying and nobody liked, and then they broke them down and rebuilt them. Like people do. So you start off as something that not everybody likes, and then over years of experience and all that stuff, hopefully you turn into a decent human being, and that's what we got with Ahsoka. Yeah. But all you guys are like, she was an angel since the start.
Nah,
No,
bro.
No.
And again, that's people our age saying that because I never had a problem with Ahsoka. I never thought Ahsoka was annoying because I was 9 or 10 years old and she was my perspective. I was the kid in the situation, that got to grow up in all the situations. So for me, that was me. So I didn't care, and Captain Rex was the cool guy. He was the cool one that you could look at.
Guy.
But there are so many dumb things that happened in those first couple seasons. Do you remember it's the beginning of season 2. There's the Cad Bane. Cad Bane's on the Trade Federation ship, and they go in, and like Cad Bane disguises as Denal, the one clone. Captain Rex bonks his head on a pipe. They're walking through the ship, and the lights are turned off, and Captain Rex donks his head on the thing, and he goes, "Everybody turn your flashlights on." And everybody turns their helmet flashlights on. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that just is not...
That's kind of funny, though.
I know. It's like, that's so...
And it didn't activate the chip.
That's so George Lucas. That's so George Lucas.
We also got to think, Clone Wars was the last project that George Lucas had control on.
Actually worked on for Star Wars.
He was the showrunner for it, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's everybody else.
Yeah, literally anyone and everyone. Which is cool in a way.
Maybe it can be me. Can I do it? Please? Please, Dave. Please, John. Please, Deborah. Please, anyone. Anyone hear me. Hear my cries.
Getting back to the point.
No, let me plug myself
Not
real
that.
quick. I'm a nice young man. I'm not controversial. I just want to make Star Wars. That's my resume.
Why the Clone Wars was so good for me growing up was that it, unlike a lot of other shows, I guess, for our time, it had a lot of really good positive messaging too that I still carry today. Not to say that The Mandalorian and Rebels and all these other shows don't, but it's just the Clone Wars has the most impactful stuff that I can remember.
Here's a tidbit, since we're talking about this Cartoon Network era, not just the Clone Wars, we're really talking about this era of our childhood.
Yeah.
What was next to the Clone Wars, what was your other favorite show that was on Cartoon Network?
I feel like I don't remember.
Mine's easy. Mine's really easy. Teen Titans.
Teen Titans was good, but I feel like I didn't watch it.
Codename Kids Next Door was
lot.
fun.
I
I
was
liked
a
it
good
when
one,
that came
too.
on because it was like a rare one when it came on, in my opinion.
Because we were like at the very
The Teen
tail
Titans
end.
Japanese movie is the best. Though.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys remember Hero 108.
Yep.
That was mine.
That's
I
a good
loved
one.
Hero 108. They had toys for it, and I remember I got the toys for it.
I was talking to Jackson about this, but I think I finally diagnosed what my
it was Ben 10. That was the one I watched.
yeah,
How could you forget Ben 10?
Yeah.
I had the Omnitrix.
So did I.
You did too.
Yeah.
I remember I was going shopping with Jack at garage sales. I was like, I'm gonna find an Omnitrix today. He's like, no, you're not. And then I did. And I was like, ah. But I think I diagnosed why I like horror stuff and I like creepy things because every single time I would be like homesick from school, I would watch TV all day because I really wasn't allowed to watch TV during like the week. Growing up, Jackson, we can only really do Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights because either we were outside or our parents wanted us doing homework and that stuff because we were raised right. But during the week when I was sick, I would just watch TV during the day because I had nothing else to do. And all the time, middle of the day, they would play reruns of old Scooby-Doo stuff. Like when it was like everything was like a monster rather than just kind of like, oh, this weird alien apparition is here. And I was scrolling on TikTok and somebody was showing off like all these matte paintings for like the backgrounds of these episodes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like all the stuff I like for my aesthetic nowadays. This is all the stuff I kind of like. I kind of base my feelings on when I do art and things like that. I'm like, this is really trippy. I think I found my diagnosis. So
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Yeah, I think
oh, TMNT! How can we forget about TMNT?
that's another one. That's another one.
Dude.
Now that's the thing though is I think I was a little bit in the Ninjago era too.
Oh, that was
Ninjago.
We were in Ninjago for like seasons 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and then we fell off.
Then it got weird.
They're still making episodes.
I can't believe it.
I was
And
in it.
Legos.
I was in it when the Green Ninja got introduced, and then I fell off.
Yeah, when Lloyd was like supposed to be Garmadon's son. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
ain't no way, dog. This is dumb. I didn't make it to like Zane being a robot. I thought that was weird.
No, yeah.
And then Cole died, like
I don't
IRL.
remember.
Yeah, he's a ghost now.
No, like the voice actor died.
Yeah, in the show, he's a ghost. He's like a green apparition. I saw a clip from one of the new episodes.
That's
He's
just
like a green
disrespectful.
apparition. He still hangs out with the crew though.
Does he just not talk?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he had a line. Yeah.
That's messed up.
Again, though, it's like I think that it's a
He was my
sign of the
favorite.
times in that like you don't realize how much like society has changed. But like if you think about it, like when I was in middle school, I remember like Skylanders and Disney Infinity were a big thing.
Yeah.
And like I was into both of those, and that was like we were in this weird stage where YouTube was just getting big, and like but you watched YouTube and you played video games, but you still played with toys and went outside and like did things.
Yeah.
Like but and video games were like and TV time were restrictive. Like
Yes,
everyone I know
100%.
growing up, like no one just like not many people sat inside all day and watched TV. Now it's like all kids just don't care to play with toys anymore. They want to just sit, play Fortnite, collect their skins. Like not even games like Minecraft or Roblox like are popular anymore. It's more like
Minecraft had a resurgence within adults in the past
within
couple of
people
years.
our age. Yeah.
Yeah, like I still think the game is relatively dead to the younger ages, which is
Case in point, my 12-year-old brother, Logan's gonna be so mad because he knows I already outed him on the Discord. He told me Minecraft sucks and it's a boring game.
It's just,
earlier this week.
It's not. It's one of the greatest games to ever be created and grace
it's one of the
this
most
planet.
it's one of the most monumental and important pieces of gaming history.
It's the top selling game of all time.
Point simple. Nearly every household has Minecraft on a computer, a phone, an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch. Every single household in America probably has it installed on one or the other, or at least pirated.
But if you think about it, though, Minecraft even still stimulated your imagination, and I think that's why why so many young people back when we were kids were so drawn to Minecraft, because there was so much imagination that came with it, and you really could do whatever you wanted. And I feel like also, you guys would totally agree that that was the first generation of YouTubers. Like that was part of that first generation where PewDiePie was getting big, Markiplier, like Jacksepticeye. Does anyone remember Team Crafted?
Yeah.
When Sky does Minecraft and Bajan Canadian.
Now Sky does
Asian
Minecraft.
Canadian. The go.
Yeah.
Apparently, Sky does Minecraft is like a terrible person now.
Well, he's fighting for his kid.
He lost custody of his kid.
Yeah, apparently he lost custody because like beat his girlfriend or something.
No, those are allegations.
That was the allegation that I heard about. I don't
And
know
then
if it was true.
Basherverse was a pedophile.
He died.
Yeah.
He died a couple years ago. I think
Rest in
Jerome
peace.
ASF is getting married. I just saw pictures from his bachelor
Yeah.
party.
Jerome
Wow.
and like Bajan are and Sunday. Sunday still makes videos and he's still
Yeah.
kicking.
So does
Sunday was dope,
so does
too.
Preston Plays.
Wow.
Let me look that up real quick.
Yeah, and of course Captain Sparkles is
What's
still
his
kicking, and Ant Venom is still going strong.
Crap. Yeah.
Diamond Minecart is still going. What where was like for Stampy's?
Oh man, it was Bajan Canadian's bachelor party.
Oh damn!
Yeah.
I was,
That's
They had
insane.
and Mr. Woofles
Mm.
was there
Yeah.
too at the bachelor
I
party.
was gonna say if you guys remember Stampy, like his.
Stampy Long Nose.
I did not watch.
I didn't
Stampy
watch him,
Long
but
Nose.
do you
Stampy
guys
was
remember like
perfect.
his like sidekick got like he was like a pedophile and they had to kick him off the server.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
Yeah,
I saw a
Dan the
whole video
Diamond
about it.
Minecart and all that stuff.
The
Yeah.
mod
Now, but again-
showcases.
All that stuff just goes to show when we were kids, there was much more emphasis on imagination
Yep.
and building a story your own way. Whereas
Mhm.
now, if you look at stuff like Fortnite, Warzone, all these games that are super popular now, it's so repetitive. And
Yeah.
and yes, they'll change the map or they'll change this, but it's this like zombie cycle you get into where you go in and do the same thing over and over and over, and over time it loses its charm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why, and I always have been this way. I've always been drawn to single player story games when it came to video games whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Destiny because it mixed the two. There was like a really
Yes.
strong story, but it was an MMO, so there was like constant multiplayer aspects to it as well. But I was always like Assassin's Creed was my bread and butter all throughout like the tail end of elementary school, throughout middle school, and then into middle school. Cringe, I know, but Undertale was my jam. Just because it's a single player story. Because the story of it and the creativity behind the story of it is like, it was my jam. I loved it. It was so good. And now we're getting the same thing with Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is now out, and also I must say, long ago, Breath of the Wild trumped Fallen Order by a long shot. I was like, this game was way better. And now I'm on the side of I think Jedi Survivor is absolutely just chode slapping around Breath of Tears of the Kingdom.
Can we
Like-
watch our vocabulary?
Oh, it's a big
please,
word that
bro?
small children aren't gonna get, so they'll repeat it in front of their parents and they'll get yelled at. Exactly.
Technically, it's a small word.
They'll get the same treatment that I got when I learned some bad words from hearing it from other people, and then I repeated it in front of my mother and got yelled at. That's part of the human experience, and you have to go through it. But no, the Jedi Survivor is like absurdly good. So,
I'm excited to play it more.
I'm gonna need to play it when I get new Xbox.
and knowing Tommy, he's never gonna get it because he said he was gonna get Lego Star Wars as well, but he never got it.
It's okay if you don't get it. I haven't
Yeah, it's
even
okay
beat
if you
it.
don't
Now,
get it.
yeah, I think a big thing with the Clone Wars too was it. I think if I had one more point to bring up about it, it would be the
Yep.
way that it brought in new things, and it never felt like the show was trying too hard.
Yep.
Let's look at
I
like
agree.
The sons
Darth
of
Maul, the Mandalorians. You had ways to bring things into the fold of the story, and it just never felt, whoa, where did that come from?
Mm.
And I think that being an anthology series really
Mhm.
supports that, because like the Mandalorians, like, oh, Jango Fett was a Mandalorian, Boba Fett was a man. Like in my head, I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, yeah. So what are these guys up to?
Mm.
And then you throw in that Obi-Wan, as a Padawan, had a love affair with Duchess Satine. So that again, it threads it into the story more deeply than, and we're just gonna go do this thing now, and there's these people here. Or like with Darth Maul, first you brought in Savage Opress,
Yes.
Mm.
using Asajj Ventress and Count Dooku, who are already main characters in the story.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in a new character, you develop that new character. Oh, and then Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters, who are another new thing that got threaded in because they're connected to Asajj Ventress. Well, now you have Darth Maul.
Mhm.
And now, again,
And Darth Maul came back into the fray right when they re-released Episode 1 into theaters in 3D. And that was the biggest power move of all time.
yeah.
I
Mm.
really wish they did that. Because they were 2 movies away from playing Revenge of the Sith in theater. And I've never seen that movie. Did you see that some movie theaters were playing Revenge of the Sith on May the 4th?
I did
Like
not
in
see
Europe and stuff. Why couldn't we do that? That would I would have paid
Jacob,
so much money.
Star Wars
So much
fans
money.
don't like the prequels, Jacob.
You're right.
Only like
You're
the
right.
original trilogy.
You're right. We only like the Luke Skyboy.
We need to see Stormtroopers and Boba Fett's and Vader's galore.
If I don't see that, it's not making money.
It's not Star Wars then.
And yeah, but again, it's like everything, the story felt so big, but it really wasn't because everything was interconnected
Yep.
in a way. And the more you think about it, you're like, oh, and this is here and that's there and that's there. And it's just like a constellation of story points that all make one big picture.
Yep.
And I think that that's what's really special about the Clone Wars. To me, I feel like that show, the experience of growing up with that as a Star Wars fan, I honestly wouldn't choose any other Star Wars. I wouldn't even choose original trilogy being the thing I grew up with over the Clone Wars, you know, because I again, the prequels had just come out. I was on the heels of the prequels, so I had those toys. I was growing up with that, but the Clone Wars was the thing that I really got to invest in.
Yep.
And I feel like I mean, if you look at who I am now, I have a Captain Rex tattoo. I have a ARC Trooper Clone Wars costume for the 501st Legion. I have, so many parts of I mean, our thing for the podcast is a Clone Trooper Legion.
It is.
And that's not because of the prequels, it's because of the Clone Wars. Like,
100%.
because the clones were such a central part of that story.
90% of the $300 action figures sitting above my head are Clone Wars or Clone Troopers or quite literally Clone Wars animated style figures.
Yep.
It's our bread and butter. It's what we grew up on.
Got the Fives tattoo here. Got a Lego Clone Trooper on my leg because
and I got this
clone.
guy that's from the Clone. Oh, never mind. Well, technically in one of the books, but
Oh my, yeah.
There you go.
yeah, Clone Wars. Thrawn is a Clone Wars character. He met Anakin Skywalker.
He did, and that is canon.
I would love that to be an episode of the Clone Wars. That would have been a cool episode.
That'd be
Honestly,
dope.
that would.
Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of
Tales of the Jedi.
They could do
Tales
that.
of the Jedi. They just take a chunk of the Thrawn Alliance's book and they make it into a Tales of the Jedi episode.
Dude, I would
with Anakin and
just say
Thrawn.
it lightly. I'd be creaming.
Thrawn and Anakin, and then because we have the new model for Vader from season 7 of the Clone Wars, and you have Vader and Thrawn.
Because
That would
technically
never happen,
it would
but
be
that would be
they would be tailing of Jediing. So
Yeah, and
Dave
then
Filoni, hear my cry.
then you'll go to Batuu and you'll see Thrawn and Vader walking
Dude,
around.
I want to see Batuu in something. I want to see it. I want to. Rather than it just existing in Disney and in one book. Please, put it in Mando. Put it in something.
It's gonna be in the Ahsoka show.
That'd be sick if it was.
That would be cool. That would be
It's gonna be in Ahsoka.
Anyway.
the Rebels cast in Batuu if it's in the Ahsoka show.
Everybody goes like, where's
would go
Kanan?
stupid.
Have a dude in like a dressed as Kanan with a blue tarp over him walking around. Guys, I'm Ghost of Kanan. Anyway, I think that's about it for today.
Yep.
Actually, there would just be a crater, and it would just be a sign, a little picket sign that says Kanan.
And with that, thank you guys so
right.
much for watching this episode of the 1313 podcast. If you liked it, leave a like, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about Clone Wars. What's your Star Wars experience growing up? And be sure to support us on Patreon for your chance to win this Endor book.
Tommy's excited. You should be excited too.
Look how excited he is, guys.
He's happy.
But yeah, make sure. Make sure they should support us on Patreon. Link is in the description below.
Like, comment, subscribe, and join the Patreon, or I'm gonna mail you secretions.
You're gonna what?
Okay, we're not gonna do that.
Alright, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Follow us on our social media. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye,
Bye, everybody.